Sam Elliott has never been shy about his admiration for Tombstone, but he has also never hidden his belief that audiences only saw part of the movie that was originally envisioned. While fans celebrate the film as one of the greatest westerns ever made, Elliott has repeatedly suggested that the production lost something irreplaceable during its troubled shoot. His comments reveal a fascinating behind-the-scenes struggle between preserving an ambitious historical epic and rescuing a film that was rapidly spinning out of control. To understand why Elliott felt so strongly, it helps to remember just how chaotic the making of Tombstone actually was. Screenwriter Kevin Jarre had written an enormous screenplay packed with historical detail, layered character development, and interconnected storylines that explored not only Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday but also the lives of Virgil, Morgan, the cowboys, and the town itself. Jarre's dedication to authenticity impressed nearly everyone who joined the cast. He insisted on period-accurate costumes, authentic facial hair, and historically inspired dialogue, convincing actors that they were participating in the definitive retelling of the legendary gunfight at the OK Corral. However, directing such a massive production proved far more difficult than writing it. With hundreds of extras, horse sequences, complicated action scenes, and strict production deadlines, Jarre quickly fell behind schedule. After only about a month of filming, producers made the painful decision to replace him with veteran director George P. Cosmatos. Officially, Cosmatos became the director of the film, but years later Kurt Russell revealed a far more unusual arrangement. According to Russell, the producers asked him to oversee the creative direction while Cosmatos served as the public face of the production. Russell later explained that each evening he prepared detailed shot lists for the following day, handing them to Cosmatos, who then directed the scenes according to those plans. Russell honored an agreement to keep this secret until after Cosmatos passed away, finally discussing the arrangement publicly years later. Whether every detail happened exactly as Russell described has remained a subject of discussion among historians and cast members, but few dispute that Russell assumed an enormous leadership role once Jarre departed. Taking control also meant making difficult creative decisions. Faced with limited time and an overstuffed screenplay, Russell and the producers began trimming large sections of Jarre's script. Entire character arcs disappeared. Supporting roles that originally contained meaningful development were drastically reduced. Scenes intended to build family relationships, political tensions, and emotional depth were shortened or removed altogether. Russell believed these sacrifices were necessary to keep the production alive and to focus the movie around the central friendship between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. That relationship ultimately became the emotional heartbeat of the finished film, giving audiences many of its most memorable exchanges and helping establish Val Kilmer's unforgettable performance. Most of the cast accepted these reductions, even when it meant losing some of their own scenes. Russell himself reportedly encouraged giving away some of Wyatt's dialogue to strengthen the ensemble rather than making the movie revolve entirely around its leading man. Yet one actor remained deeply uncomfortable watching the screenplay shrink: Sam Elliott. According to accounts from those involved with the production, Elliott resisted losing material connected to Virgil Earp, believing those quieter scenes were essential to understanding both his character and the larger story. One often repeated anecdote claims Elliott jokingly warned that anyone who cut another line from his dialogue would regret it, a remark that reflected both the tension on set and his determination to protect what remained of Jarre's original script. Behind the humor was a sincere conviction. Elliott later explained in interviews that Jarre's screenplay ranked among the finest he had ever read. In fact, he admitted that if the shortened version had been the script originally offered to him, he might never have accepted the role. He believed the cuts removed what he called the connective tissue that gave every relationship greater emotional weight. Virgil Earp, in particular, suffered from those revisions because much of his moral leadership within the Earp family was developed through scenes that never reached the final edit. The finished movie still presents Virgil as courageous and honorable, but Elliott felt audiences never fully experienced the depth originally written for the character. Interestingly, Kurt Russell eventually echoed many of Elliott's feelings despite being responsible for the difficult editing decisions. Years after the film's release, Russell described Jarre's complete screenplay as a Western equivalent of The Godfather, suggesting it possessed an epic scope that simply could not fit within the production's constraints. Stephen Lang, who portrayed Ike Clanton, similarly praised Jarre's original screenplay, recalling how richly layered and ambitious it had been before extensive revisions became necessary. Those comments reveal an unusual situation in Hollywood where even the people responsible for changing a script later acknowledged the greatness of the material they had been forced to sacrifice. Still, history also suggests Russell's instincts were not entirely misplaced. The streamlined version of Tombstone became an enormous success with audiences, earning strong box office returns and eventually achieving legendary status through home video and television broadcasts. Its brisk pacing, endlessly quotable dialogue, memorable gunfights, and electric chemistry between Wyatt and Doc made it one of the most beloved westerns of the modern era. Meanwhile, the competing Wyatt Earp film starring Kevin Costner embraced a much longer, more deliberate approach and struggled to connect with audiences despite its impressive scale. Ironically, the very cuts Elliot regretted may have been one of the reasons Tombstone became so endlessly rewatchable. Rather than weighing viewers down with extensive historical detail, the finished movie races from one unforgettable scene to another without losing momentum. Yet that commercial success has never entirely erased the lingering question of what might have been. Russell has occasionally mentioned that significant amounts of unused footage still exist, fueling decades of speculation about whether a more complete reconstruction of Jar's original vision could someday become possible. Fans continue hoping for an expanded edition that restores deleted scenes and allows the supporting characters to breathe the way Elliot believed they deserved. Whether such a version will ever appear remains uncertain, but the fascination surrounding it has only grown over time. In many ways, Sam Elliott's perspective gives Tombstone an entirely different legacy. Instead of viewing the movie as a flawless classic, he saw it as a remarkable compromise, a film that survived extraordinary production turmoil through determination, sacrifice, and difficult creative choices. He respected the finished product while simultaneously mourning the richer historical epic that existed on the page before deadlines and budget realities forced painful decisions. That duality is part of what keeps the film so compelling decades later. It is both a complete story and an incomplete one, celebrated for what audiences received while quietly hinting at everything left unseen. Elliot's willingness to speak honestly about those lost pages reminds viewers that some of Hollywood's greatest classics are shaped as much by the scenes that never reached the screen as by the ones that became unforgettable.